I'm so grateful to be here, grateful to be alive and sober with some amount of dignity and integrity and a clear head and a loving heart. Oh, dear God, may the meditations of my heart and the words from my mouth be pleasing to you. So, I travel a lot. This month, going to several cities, and over the next few months, a number of states to carry the message, and I'll travel anywhere because today the stakes are high. Addiction and alcoholism have become a global pandemic. It is a plague on planet Earth. It is America's #1 public health crisis. At this very moment, millions are still sick and suffering and don't know about the spiritual solution to our disease. They don't know about the rooms of recovery. Every year in the United States now, over 250,000 20-something-year-old men and women are dying from fentanyl overdose. That number, 250,000, is double the number of all American military casualties since World War II. That's happening every year, wiping out a generation. And today I hope to answer two questions. This is my mission. Why can't we stop? What is the solution? My hope is to bring education to loved ones and family members to understand that this is not a choice. This is a progressive, chronic, fatal brain disease. Not a choice, not a moral failing. So that hopefully families and loved ones and our friends and colleagues who are normies can stop being angry and bitter and move toward compassion and love, and so that we addicts can stop hating ourselves for the egregious behaviors that we lived in for so long, and move toward compassion and love. So first I'm going to tell a little bit about my story so you know why I'm sitting here. I was addicted to alcohol, marijuana, opium, hash, morphine, ketamine, Percocet, Percodan, Vicodin, Restoril, LSD, Quaaludes, Black Beauties, Whippets. Real good. Whip it good. IV heroin and crack cocaine. I went to 47 detoxes, 11 trips to jail, caught 2 felonies, 7 suicide attempts. Gestalt therapy, Jungian therapy, Freudian therapy, psychodynamics, electroshock therapy, 2 Anthony Robbins firewalks, ayahuasca, puke and purge, and I spent one Christmas in sub-zero temperature in a sweat lodge on the Taos Pueblo, tripping on peyote, trying to get sober, with 6 naked, greasy, sweaty, ugly old Indian shaman. I still have nightmares about that. Even after doing EMDR trauma therapy, can't get that out of my head. I'm from Akron, Ohio. That's where my disease began. In fact, the first time I was ever arrested was 2 blocks from Dr. Bob's house. And I'm very proud of that. I didn't know Dr. Bob at the time. I wish I had. I started drinking when I was 12. First of all, I'm adopted. And I just met my birth family in the last 3 or 4 years. In my book, Walk the Talk with Step 12, I mentioned that my birth name was William Joseph Weaver, which makes me Bill W. I thought that was kind of a corny joke, and I put it in the book. And I got a call one night from this guy who said he was my twin brother. Turns out it was true. And he had the same birth name, and we had a heroin addict for a mother who was popping out babies and selling us for $5 grand a piece. And he found me. I am an Episcopal priest. Now there's life beyond your wildest dreams. That's nothing this crack whore ever thought I'd be doing, was being a priest. And he's a Baptist minister. We both teach the steps. I teach it in treatment. He teaches it in the Georgia prison system. And we both got clean and sober on the same month of the same year. That crazy twin thing, you know? And there are 6 other brothers and sisters. We're all addicts. We're all alcoholics. Both birth parents died. This is a genetic illness. If you have certain symptoms, I had them all. So my adopted family, Bruce and Mary Evelyn, they met before World War II when they were in high school. They were married 69 years. They died within 1 month from each other. I never heard them fight, never raised their voice to each other. They didn't drink, they didn't smoke. They wouldn't say shit if they had a mouthful of it. They were the kindest people and never touched alcohol. Bruce lined up the convertible automobiles for the Football Hall of Fame parade just south of Akron every year. And one year, the Board of Trustees of the Football Hall of Fame gave him a whiskey decanter made out of porcelain that looked like the Football Hall of Fame. And inside that bottle was 80-year-old Jim Beam whiskey. I was 8 years old when it arrived. Bruce never drank, but he loved football. So he built a shadow box in his den. And he put that bottle in it with a track light shining on it like it was a shrine to the Virgin Mary or something. And I remember the day it arrived. They were a very strict family, Pentecostal. My grandfather was a Pentecostal minister. And alcohol, very bad. And at 8 years old, I wanted to find out why. So every time I was alone, I'd go into the den, I'd pick that bottle up and shake it and listen to it. The cork in the bottle was the football, which is the roof of the Football Hall of Fame. If you've ever seen it, this giant football makes the roof. That was the cork in the bottle. Well, I was 12. I had a growth spurt. One weekend, they were going to take me to a relative's farm and leave me for the weekend while they went on a trip. And I said, I'm not going. I'm staying home. And Bruce talked to Mary Evelyn, and he said, you know what? You're a good kid, and you can certainly take care of yourself for a weekend. We're going to let you stay home. If you touch that bottle, I'm going to whip your ass till it looks like peppermint candy. Oh, I swear, Dad, no, I wouldn't do that. Soon as the car disappeared, I ran into the den, grabbed that bottle, took it into the kitchen, filled up a tea kettle, got a head of steam going, very carefully peeled the seal off that bottle. I saw that on I Love Lucy. And it worked. And I had my first drink. Instantly, the wall went down that separated me from every other human being. And I felt courageous. I felt like a superhero. Over the course of the weekend, I drank that entire bottle. I spent most of the weekend running around outside at night naked. Yeah, I don't know why that is. Every time I drank, I took my clothes off. If I smoked crack, I tore them off. Aren't you glad I'm sober? I think there's a line in the big book that says a 65-year-old fat, naked crack whore is an unlovely creature. That was me. So the game was on. The allergy kicked in right away, and I started drinking every day. I stole liquor from our Italian neighbors. They had casks full of wine and grappa, and I would take dishwashing liquid bottles and rinse them out and go over to their house, steal the booze, hide it in my bedroom, lay down in my room and drink all night long, somehow managed to get up and go to school. When I was 16 years old, I got my license, and the next morning, I drank a bottle of grappa, had my first blackout, killed 2 people in an automobile accident. Over the course of my high school days, by the time I was a senior, I had totaled 11 automobiles, had killed 2 people, maimed 4 others who never fully recovered, and blew a kid's hand off with a shotgun. And got arrested a bunch of times for walking around downtown Akron without clothes on. Yeah, that was a real problem for me. Now I get paid to keep my clothes on. So my father came to me one day and he said, I wanted to be an actor. And he said, your mother and I have talked and we think you should go to acting school in New York City so that you won't have to drive. That'll be a solution to your problem because you're going to kill somebody else or kill yourself. And I thought, well, this is a good idea. So when I was 17 years old, I was handed $5,000 in cash, and I took the Amtrak from Akron to New York City. My first morning in New York, I was walking around. I saw this business called Abracadabra. They sold costumes and party supplies and magic tricks. And there was a nightclub I wanted to get into. And you had to either be very famous, mad sexy, or a freak. Now, I was 17 years old. I trained to be a dancer, to be a tap dancer. And I was ripped and buff, 17 years old, loved being naked in public. I went out and I bought this big straw farmer hat at Abracadabra, a 6-foot-long red ostrich feather boa. This was the 1970s. And a pair of extremely short, very thin, gold lame Daisy Duke shorts. And I took off all my clothes, put on this big straw hat, the red boa, the little lame shorts, and I made a beeline for Studio 54, which was a very famous nightclub at the time. Red carpet, lots of celebrities, limos parked down the block. The doorman decided who could come in, and he sees this half-naked 17-year-old dressed like a freak, and he goes, "Kid, come on in." Like it said in Bill's story, I had arrived. That night I met cocaine, had sex with a lot of celebrities, and I took all my clothes off and danced naked on the dance floor at Studio 54. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm in a documentary that's on Netflix right now called Studio 54. If you watch it, look for a tall, skinny kid in red hot pants with a woman wearing a leopard skin sarong. That's me shaking my ass when I was 17. And so I worked there for a while I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. So I would get hammered all night, and the American Academy classes didn't start till 2 p.m. And I was a teenager, so no problem. I could get plenty of sleep, be out all night doing drugs and alcohol. I couldn't hang on to money to save my life, and somebody said, you know, you should become a male prostitute. I said, that sounds like a good idea. So I did that, and I was stripping to clubs all over New York. Now I'm doing lots of drugs in addition to drinking, and lost a moral a day. After about 2 years of that, I saw an advertisement. They were looking for what they called replacement swing dancers for a Broadway show. They wanted tall, young, athletic males who were trained dancers who would be willing to dance in their jockstrap in a locker room scene, playing a Texas Aggie football player in the Broadway musical, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Well, I thought, I'm a whore and I dance naked. So this is a no-brainer. So I auditioned. That was my first Broadway show. I did 39 Broadway musicals altogether, traveled all over the world, made crazy money. I was meaner than a snake and just absolutely crazy. Very difficult to work with, super prima donna. I'll speed ahead. You know, that profession really allowed for drugs and alcohol. I had people on staff. I had a manager and a dresser and a guy named Brad who I paid full-time in benefits to follow me around and make sure I made it back to the theater on time. And I used to hide from him. That's how crazy I was. And I was paying him to keep track of me because I didn't want him to see the twisted things I was doing. And I remember we were at a bar somewhere in Wisconsin, and they were trashing the bar, and they had a tabletop Pac-Man machine. I put that in the back of my tour bus so I could put lines of cocaine on it, and they had cup holders, 4 of them, that held 40 ounces, so I put bottles of unblended scotch in that with big bendy straws I got from a truck stop, and I would turn the machine on and do my lines of cocaine. I never played Pac-Man, but I loved hearing waka, 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 waka when I was doing the cocaine. Funny thing about triggers, a few years ago I was a keynote speaker at the California State Convention of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was checking into the hotel, and I heard waka, 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 waka. Instantly, I got bubble guts and diarrhea and went up to my room and puked for an hour because my body, my brain, this disease, thought I was about to get high just by hearing that Pac-Man machine, the phenomena of triggers which occur in the midbrain. Fascinating thing. So everything got really crazy. I'm going to speed ahead. My last Broadway adventure, I was hired to play Daddy Warbucks and Annie. I'm telling this story for Mike. And thank you for bringing me here. And Robert and Heidi. And it's just such an honor to be with you guys. So I was hired to play Daddy Warbucks and Annie. And that's the tall, bald guy. And before we opened on Broadway, we had to play 6 cities outside of New York. That's to get your timing down and make sure the show goes smooth. It's kind of like a working rehearsal. And we were in Albany, New York at the State Theater, which holds about 4,000 people. And this particular performance was $1,000 a ticket for an AIDS benefit. And that night, the governor of New York would be there, the mayor of New York City, lots of celebrities, and the New York press corps, the New York Times, the Daily News, the Post, Cindy Adams, Liz Smith, Frank Rich from the Times, New York Magazine. They were all going to be in the audience. And we had 65 adult actors, 30-piece orchestra, conductor, the tech staff, the administrative staff, 20 little orphan girls, their mothers, their teachers, their chaperones, Annie the dog, Sandy the dog's understudy, the dog trainers, 18 massive trucks full of equipment. It was a big deal. My days consisted of the following: wake up in the morning, knock back a scotch, smoke a joint, pop a Valium, go to the bathroom, knock back another scotch, pop another Valium, smoke another joint, get in bed. Smoke a little crack, stay in bed. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, dresser shows up, slaps me, gets me into the bathroom, gets me in the shower, off I go to the theater. I manage to do my show. I lay off drugs and alcohol till intermission. I do a little bit of Coke and 1 Jack Daniels neat. Then at night, I'm out in the nightclubs with Coke, hookers, and booze. Coke, hookers, and booze, Coke, hookers, and booze. Then before going to bed, I would eat copious amounts of eggs, pancakes, and orange juice to soak up the booze. Then I would inject heroin. And this was your grandfather's heroin, not this stuff that's going around today. It was real